My name is Patrice. I'm working as a security specialist at Google Cloud. Today, what a surprise, we're going to talk about Zero Trust, but we're going to talk about it in probably a different way, and especially with the experience of what Google did with Zero Trust. And I'm not saying Google Cloud, I'm really saying Google. And you will see what our journey with Zero Trust was or is, and also how we couple Zero Trust with identity in an identity-centered approach. By the way, these slides are public and available if you want to see them later with that event. Couple of numbers first and statistics. 78% of employees said they have received phishing email between March and July 2020. This is data we get from Gmail, and we see probably a huge increase of this data recently, and especially within the context of COVID and what's happening these days with Ukraine and the war in that region. We're also seeing a lot of customers suffering from phishing attack, and email and identity continue to be the number one vector of attack. Phishing attacks account for more than 80% of reported security incidents, and 25% of malware is actually delivered by email. So due to ever-changing attacker tactics, these threats are hard to detect. Coupled with possible employee negligence and 15 times in rise in ransomware, resulting in data exfiltration, keeping organizations secure is not an easy task. And we've seen that many times admin don't have the required control, which is actually exacerbating the problem. 400% increase in cyber attacks since April 2020. You're probably very aware of that. There is no single day where we are not seeing an announcement, a public announcement about companies being victim of attack. So we're talking about zero. We're talking about especially P0 in security. So the most urgent priority in security. And this would lead us to zero as in Zero Trust. But let's see a couple of things here and some additional information. So ransomware attacks are on the rise. This is easy to see and understand. Compromised credentials are often to blame. So phishing attacks and compromised credential. 44% of organizations in the last 2 months have experienced a breach, and 74 saying this is the result of giving too much privilege access to third parties, to employees, to consultants, to contractors. So it's proving that we need to protect our end users and the user accessing the data and accessing the application to avoid that type of situation. If you follow the news, you also noticed, and starting last year in August, that Google announced a huge investment in cybersecurity. In August last year, our CEO announced an investment of $10 billion to strengthen security, and this is typically around cyber attacks, vulnerabilities targeting people, organizations, governments, where we are investing. And you probably heard about some recent announcements around threat intelligence and cybersecurity at Google. So this is all about dealing with these P0s. So how do we address P0? So this priority zero, we are actually addressed with Zero Trust. You probably heard a lot about Zero Trust today and different definitions of Zero Trust. I'm going to tell you about what we consider Zero Trust at Google. You probably heard about verified trust, implicit trust, even trust nothing, which is not really the angle we are using at Google. So first of all, Zero Trust is, as you know, a modern approach to combat all these P0s and all these security problems. By the way, I don't know if you know that, but Google is one of the pioneers in Zero Trust computing. We actually kind of invented Zero Trust 12 years ago, and the entire company from our CEO, Sundar, to myself, we are using Zero Trust every day at Google to access our business application. So no person, device, or network enjoys inherent trust. Trust that allows access to information must be earned. That's why at Google we consider Zero Trust to be earned trust. We've learned a lot about the power, both the power and the challenges of running this model at scale at Google. We are more than 140,000 employees these days to use Zero Trust. So when you implement Zero Trust properly, it provides the highest level of security inside an organization. Zero Trust has been used to describe a wide range of approaches and products, but there's a bit of confusion here, as I told you. So we sometimes explain that Zero Trust means trust nothing, or Zero Trust is about delivering secure access without VPN. This is kind of incorrect or limiting. At the core of Zero Trust approach, it's the idea that implicit trust in any single component of a complex or interconnected system can create significant security risk. So what does Zero Trust mean? It's a way of thinking. So earned trust is how we consider it at Google. And Zero Trust is not just an employee remote access solution. It's a concept that applies broadly. And I think my predecessor actually mentioned that really well with that definition. So Zero Trust is a framework. It's a framework that can be applied to your workforce and your workloads. And it's a way of structuring this. And of course, it's related to identity and identity posture. Most of the time, you have to rethink the way you construct your identity and the way you manage identity. And the way you trust identity and trust users. So the idea is to build the strategy around the identity, because identity plays a very important role in Zero Trust. In order to access resources, we need to assure that the user's identity with strong authentication and identity management. We also use the posture of the contextual information surrounding identity, behaviors and details to ensure that a user maintains the right access with continuous authorization. All of these factors, by the way, contribute to the Zero Trust approach. Google's Zero Trust approach is called Beyond Corp. You might have heard this before. Beyond Corp is what we are using internally at Google, and Beyond Corp Enterprise is the customer version we are selling to our customer at Google Cloud. Basically, what it does is security posture around user, machine, and application. So are you authorized to access this application? Can you be trusted to access this application? Is it safe to give you, as a user, access to these applications? And all of these questions, you can't really answer them without knowing, of course, the identity of the user. So identity is in the center of everything here when talking about Zero Trust. It's not just that. It has to be also a good user experience for all the users. Otherwise, it's not going to be adopted by your users. It might be employees, contractors, partners. So that's one thing. At Google, by the way, we do it through Google Chrome. We do it through the browser. So we give you the exact same user experience you have with Gmail, for example, or G Drive or GDocs. So accessing other applications the same way you are accessing Gmail is typically what we are doing with our Zero Trust approach. We don't want to interfere with productivity. So we don't want to impact productivity because we are adding a layer of security with Zero Trust. It's not because it's invisible that it cannot be effective. So that's also something very important. So it's a user-centric approach. That is what is important here. So how do we modernize the Zero Trust approach? Well, you're very familiar with that. The first one is we provide flexibility around identity. Two-factor authentication is one of them, and you're probably all using this. By the way, at Google, we are a fan of using physical encryption keys, Titan keys for two-factor authentication. We think it's the highest level of security when you want to control the user. It's also available, by the way, the Titan keys, the TPM is also available on devices. If you use a Chromebook or if you use a Pixel 6 Pro, for example, you have an embedded Titan key to authenticate the machine with a hardware signal instead of a software signal. So we provide flexibility, multiple factor authentication. We want to, of course, move away from VPN, and we want to use simple tools. And here, the way we do it at Google is, of course, by using Google Chrome, by using the browser as the probably simplest tool possible to access the applications. And because people are glued to their devices, we want to make it universal, so you can apply it to whatever type of devices the user is actually using. It can be a Windows machine, it can be a Mac machine, Linux machine, a mobile devices, iOS, Android, and of course a Chromebook or a Chrome OS device, but we are applying this through Chrome to any type of devices. So this is about user identity and zero trust. Zero trust in transport, but you also know that we can apply zero trust with microservices, with applications in the cloud, with segmentation. So it's not just what we're doing on one side with the network access to the applications, it's also how you secure your applications, and especially when you're running these applications within a cloud platform and a cloud provider. So the extension of this is also what you can do with your workloads and with microsegmentations inside a VPC with a cloud provider. So it's critical that we also update all the tools and methods to fit the digital age versus the time of what we were doing before with just firewalls, perimeters, isolation. You all know that the perimeter of the network, of the perimeter of the organization these days does not really exist anymore, because the data, they are somewhere in the cloud or on-prem, and same with the applications, and the users, they are connected from everywhere, especially with remote work since COVID and the different lockdown we had. So we need to adapt what we were doing in the past to the modern era of zero trust. So supporting distributed employees, providing secure access to business critical applications wherever the users are and how they are connected to the network. And of course with SLAs, with performances and productivity, and limit the attack surface and protect data and the company assets. That's quickly what I wanted to present to you today. There's a lot of information on YouTube, especially, and some of our Google Cloud Security podcast about the journey at Google from nothing 12 years ago to zero trust as we do it today, especially with our CISO group, which is very famous. I would encourage you to have a look at this podcast, because they give you an excellent view of not the technology, but what it takes to start a zero trust journey. Thanks, everyone.